He entered this world with the power of the online shop, thanks to the strength of the delicious meals he prepares using ingredients from our world. He managed to become extremely powerful in this world by forming contracts with gods and legendary creatures. Honestly, for a seasonal anime that could have been overlooked, this one ended up being surprisingly impressive. Back then, I really enjoyed watching it. This story begins by showing several students being summoned. All of them are shocked to find themselves standing before the princess of this world. Very quickly, everyone is recognized as the heroes whose mission is to save this kingdom. Right after that, each one of them is told what special ability they possess. One of the summoned students is a swordsman, and there are also 2 mages among them. This is the moment when we meet Tsuyoshi. He is 27 years old, the same age as me, and his special ability is the power of the virtual store. That is the only ability he has, and believe it or not, this will be the reason he ends up having an amazing life in this world. Right afterward, the king is introduced to all of them. The king is extremely worried about the invasion of the Demon King. He asks all the heroes to help him defeat that threat. Everyone agrees, except Tsuyoshi, who tells the king that he only wants a simple life. He has no idea what his ability even does, so he wants to live quietly without getting in anyone's way. The king understands his request, and because he truly does not have any useful ability, he gives Tsuyoshi some money. With that money, Tsuyoshi decides to go shopping. Soon after that, he finds an inn where he can rest. There, Tsuyoshi realizes that this world also has a type of status menu, where he finally learns how to use his ability, which seems to be some sort of Chinese online shop where you can find absolutely everything. And the best part is that he does not need to pay taxes. For an adult, that is a real power. The next day, Tsuyoshi decides to leave that kingdom. During the trip, he meets an elderly merchant who explains the value and rarity of the different abilities that exist in this world. This makes Tsuyoshi realize that, in reality, his ability is actually quite good. Besides that, the old man explains that one of the most powerful things among merchants is the famous item box, which is similar to a semi-infinite bag. To finish the conversation, the elderly merchant comments that Tsuyoshi made an excellent choice by leaving that country, all because of rumors claiming that the kingdom is closing its borders. Later, it is explained that the reason for that decision is due to the attack of many monsters, something that would be even worse for someone without power like Tsuyoshi. Later that day, Tsuyoshi decides to go to the Adventurers Guild to hire some companions who could help him move to the neighboring country more easily. Because the kingdom is about to fall into crisis, all transportation activities inside the country had to be suspended. Afraid, Tsuyoshi makes his decision and ends up paying the 8 gold coins the adventurers requested. He will now travel with Werner, a rank C adventurer. Werner is obviously together with his group, and all of them will accompany Tsuyoshi to the neighboring country. The next morning, we meet the remaining members of the group, Fran, Ramon, Rita, and Vincent. After this brief introduction, our adventurers begin their journey to the neighboring kingdom. After walking for a long time, our heroes suddenly face a giant boar, and fortunately for Tsuyoshi, the creature is defeated with ease. Some time later, when everyone finally decides to rest, we discover that Tsuyoshi not only has an excellent ability, but he is also an excellent cook. The adventurers are amazed by the smell of the food he prepared, and when they taste his cooking, they discover that it is not just delicious, but also grants them a boost in their stats. They reveal this to Tsuyoshi, and surprised, he asks all of them to keep that ability a secret. And so, their journey continues. As promised, Tsuyoshi keeps cooking for all of them every day, until suddenly a legendary beast known as Fel, specifically a Fenrir, appears in front of them. The adventurers obviously start panicking, instantly regretting accepting this mission. But the legendary Fenrir has no intention of eating their flesh. The Fenrir is actually interested in the wonderful smell of the food they are eating. So, for everyone to stay alive, Tsuyoshi is forced to give food to the Fenrir. The beast is not satisfied with the first portion and demands even more food. But Tsuyoshi does not have anything else ready to offer. He asks the Fenrir if he can wait while he cooks more food, and to everyone's shock, the beast agrees. He begins working, and Tsuyoshi spends several hours preparing food for the beast. After many meals, the creature finally feels satisfied, and everyone can finally relax, because they are still alive. The legendary beast, in a way, ends up liking Tsuyoshi a lot, and because of that, it offers to form a familiar contract with him. As we can see, Tsuyoshi was basically forced to accept this contract, and surprisingly, this legendary Fenrir is now basically a pet for Tsuyoshi. Since the contract was finalized, Tsuyoshi decides to give the Fenrir a name, and that is how a legendary SS Plus rank Fenrir received the name Fel. A short time later, Tsuyoshi learns more about the legend of the legendary legendary Fenrir. It is described in history books as a creature with the power to destroy an entire country. And the great problem for Tsuyoshi in this whole situation is the fact that he has sealed a contract with such a powerful and destructive creature. Next, we discover that entering the neighboring country may be quite difficult. Tsuyoshi becomes worried when he hears that, since all he wants is to live a peaceful life. But Fel tells him that he does not need to be concerned about anything, because he will be able to handle anything that appears in their path. By this time of day, it was already lunchtime, so Tsuyoshi begins preparing to cook. Unfortunately, there was not much boar meat left to cook, and Fel, who was beside Tsuyoshi, immediately asked for more meat as soon as he saw the small amount available. To avoid an argument, Tsuyoshi stepped forward and told Fel that if he wanted more meat, he needed to hunt it himself. And to everyone's complete shock, Fel somehow obeys Tsuyoshi's order. The legendary Fenrir considered it fair to hunt the meat he would eat. Some time later, Fel appears carrying a kind of giant chicken. The legendary Fenrir is not foolish and brought a different type of meat so Tsuyoshi could cook. Tsuyoshi begins working again, and after feeding the group, he prepares Fel's meal, which leaves the Fenrir amazed with the food Tsuyoshi makes. After some time, Tsuyoshi and his group reach the border of the neighboring kingdom, where they are met by a large number of soldiers. They are terrified by Fel's presence, and Tsuyoshi decides to make Fel prove that he will not cause any harm or destruction in the kingdom. Fel agrees not to cause chaos, but under one condition. He intends to remain neutral as long as no one causes trouble for Tsuyoshi. Otherwise, the entire kingdom may end up being destroyed. Tsuyoshi agrees to that, but warns Fel that if he causes any kind of problem, he will lose his 20 kilograms of daily food. After this agreement is settled, Tsuyoshi and his group are able to enter the kingdom without issues. Obviously, Fel's presence draws everyone's attention, and as expected, everyone inside that country ends up learning about him sooner or later. News that a man accompanied by a legendary creature has arrived eventually reaches the king's ears. For Tsuyoshi, this is terrible because he only wanted to live a peaceful life without stress or worries. He decides not to worry about that for now, since his main goal is to travel around the world. Therefore, he will not need to stay in this country for too long. Werner, after hearing that, tells Tsuyoshi that it would be a good idea for him to join the Adventurers Guild or the Merchants Guild. This way, he will not have to pay taxes every time he wants to enter a new city or country. Not long after, still on the road, Tsuyoshi is approached by a person who invites him to join them on their estate. This happens because of the news about Fel, and also because of the contract that this person's family made with Tsuyoshi. Even with the invitation, Tsuyoshi refuses, but it is obvious that this person is very interested in taking him to meet the master of the estate. Fel then decides to end the conversation, stepping in front of the person, and after this small threat, the two of them leave without saying anything else. Then we discover that the person who tried to invite Fel and Tsuyoshi was part of the noble's circle, probably someone who wants to take advantage of Fel's power. At this moment, Tsuyoshi learns that the only creature in the world capable of facing Fel in combat would be a dragon. In other words, after this explanation given by Werner's group, it becomes clear that almost no one in this world would have the courage to fight him. After this, Tsuyoshi's friends tell him that their job is done, and from now on, Tsuyoshi and Fel will have to explore the city on their own. And after this farewell, Tsuyoshi decides to register in the two guilds that exist in this world, the Merchants Guild and the Adventurers Guild. This way, Tsuyoshi can earn a living by selling his goods, and on the other hand, no one will try to hunt Fel. Not far from there, he finally arrives at the Merchants Guild, where Tsuyoshi is going to register as one of the merchants. Here it is explained that inside the Merchants Guild, there are 5 different rankings that determine a merchant's level. Everything depends on the number of quotas and the amount of business a person completes during the year. For that reason, Tsuyoshi will begin in the lowest ranking, which is called Iron. The next morning, Tsuyoshi decides to sell some goods at the guild to earn more coins. The woman working at the guild sees the merchandise Tsuyoshi is carrying outside, and this leaves everyone in the room confused. Moments later, Tsuyoshi goes to the master of the Merchants Guild, and after examining the goods, which were only salt and pepper, the master becomes extremely surprised. He says he has never seen salt and pepper of such high quality. The items Tsuyoshi has are worthy of being served to royalty. Surprised, Tsuyoshi becomes very happy to learn that all his goods will be purchased right there. The guild master asks Tsuyoshi where he obtained those ingredients, but unfortunately Tsuyoshi cannot say anything about his online store, so he decides to say that it was all thanks to the travels he made. After that, the master tells Tsuyoshi that he will buy all the salt for 4 gold coins and the pepper for 10, even though Tsuyoshi had paid only 5 copper coins for each of those items. However, before he can reply to the master, the man begins increasing the value of the offer more and more. because he was afraid Tsuyoshi might hesitate and refuse to sell to him. In the end, he ends up selling the salt and pepper for 17 gold coin. After receiving all the money, Tsuyoshi realizes he made an excellent deal, and that now, thanks to what he just sold, he will be able to live peacefully in this world for a good amount of time. Now, the only thing left is registering at the Adventurers Guild. Different from the Merchants Guild, which has only 5 levels, the Adventurers Guild has 7 total levels, starting with G, which is the lowest in the list. Tsuyoshi registers at the guild, and now his only commitment is to accept at least 1 mission per month. His first mission is to collect medicinal herbs for someone. Later that day, while Tsuyoshi was feeding Fel, he decides to evaluate the statistics of that legendary creature. That way, he realizes that Fel has all of his stats at the highest level, which shocks Tsuyoshi deeply. The next morning, Tsuyoshi decides to go complete the guild mission. And while Tsuyoshi collects medicinal herbs, Fel goes hunting for some animals to eat. But before leaving, Fel detects the presence of some monsters in the area where Tsuyoshi is heading. So Fel decides to give him a type of magical shield, so nothing happens while he is away. After doing that, Fel goes off to hunt, and the collection of medicinal plants ends up being very fast thanks to Tsuyoshi's abilities. Thus, after a few minutes, the entire mission is completed, and thanks to all the free time he has left, he can spend plenty of time preparing Fel's food. Later, Fel returns with the animal he hunted, and after eating, the two head toward the place where Fel left another prey, and Tsuyoshi becomes surprised when he sees the enormous number of animals Fel managed to hunt in such a short amount of time. After that, Tsuyoshi prepares to store all the food, but among all the animals there was one very peculiar. That animal was an orc. Fel comments that he usually eats orcs as well, which leaves Tsuyoshi a bit unsettled. He cannot believe that humans also eat creatures that walk on 2 legs. For me, this is extremely bizarre. I would never eat something like that. And well, after Tsuyoshi finishes storing everything, Fel and he decide to return to the city. And to arrive faster, Fel allows Tsuyoshi to ride on his back. This way, they will reach their final destination in record time. And that destination ends up being the Adventurers Guild. Once inside the guild, Tsuyoshi delivers the herb mission, but because he brought more than the mission requested, the woman examining the request becomes surprised. After all, Tsuyoshi is only a rank G adventurer, and after receiving his full reward, Tsuyoshi decides to ask if it is possible to sell orcs, or at least their bodies. The woman comments that all the parts of the prey are sold very close to where Tsuyoshi is standing. The man in charge of that area asks Tsuyoshi what kind of prey he wants to sell. So Tsuyoshi takes an orc out of his inventory and says that he wants to sell 5 in total. The man who intends to buy everything becomes surprised by such a large number, so he takes him to the back of the shop. The man tells Tsuyoshi that there are many rumors about him circulating through the city, talking about a man who turned a Fenrir into his familiar. When the man brings up that story, Tsuyoshi becomes nervous and tries to dodge the subject. He starts talking about the other animals Fel hunted. The man becomes even more shocked when he sees that among that entire pile of creatures, there are monsters ranging from rank B all the way to rank A, and these creatures are considered true delicacies in that world. Moments later, the man gives Tsuyoshi a small amount of meat so that he has something to eat that day. And on the following day, Fel and Tsuyoshi go retrieve the meat that would be separated from the important parts of the monsters. And to their surprise, they discover not only an absurd quantity of meat enough to last them a long time, but also several items that Tsuyoshi decides to sell to the guild. Because to him, these items are not important at all, and he sees no use in any of them. After selling everything, he ends up receiving a reward of 202 gold coin. Tsuyoshi is shocked by all the money, but it turns out that in that world, the bones, hides, and even the testicles of orcs are used in various types of crafts and other local products. They really reuse everything here. And concluding his explanation, the man hands Tsuyoshi some magic stones that are obtained when class A monsters are defeated. Besides that, these stones seem to be very valuable. Before Tsuyoshi leaves, he receives a piece of advice from the man. He says that Fel can easily be mistaken for a large wolf. So, luckily for Tsuyoshi, this can help avoid a scandal every time they arrive in a new city. Without wasting more time, Fel and Tsuyoshi head toward the next city in the kingdom. And thanks to the absurd amount of money Tsuyoshi managed to earn in the previous city, he decides that he can finally afford to eat the highest quality meat from his online store. Later that same day, Tsuyoshi realizes it was not his food that had become more delicious or superior in quality. The stat bonus also reached 50% in total. With that, Fel decides to take advantage of all that energy and leaves to hunt. But before that, he gives Tsuyoshi a protective shield, preventing his cook from facing any dangerous situation. After that, Fel heads out and begins hunting every monster that appears in his path. Fel notices that not only his strength, but also his stamina and his magic have increased greatly. Thanks to that, he can defeat an orc general easily. The orc is defeated with just a single blow, and as if that were not enough, he still defeats the Macamera with the same ease, and Fel continues hunting the entire night until sunrise. Tsuyoshi wakes up and realizes he is surrounded by enormous mountains with high-level monsters, so he decides not to prepare that type of meat again, since that could be extremely dangerous in the future. He then decides to ignore all of that, and as usual, they start eating. And while both were enjoying themselves, Fel tells Tsuyoshi that currently he could be considered the best wind magic user, because he was blessed by the goddess Ninri. Tsuyoshi becomes surprised, because he did not believe that magic existed in that world, and Fel replies that the barrier he raised for him is basically a type of magic, but Tsuyoshi is a very ignorant person, so he did not even think about that. Tsuyoshi asks if there is a possibility that he can also use magic, and Fel explains that as long as he has a certain amount of magical power, this is totally possible. Upon hearing that, Tsuyoshi checks his statistics again and realizes that he does indeed have magic, but in a very small quantity. After that, Fel explains to him that in order to use magic in that world, he only needs to think about using it, and then it will activate. Tsuyoshi thinks that in that case, using magic is not that difficult. So he tries, but all he manages to do is humiliate himself. After this incredible humiliation, Fel decides to explain to Tsuyoshi how to use magic correctly, and it turns out that to use it properly, he only needs to make it flow. Besides that, practice is necessary, and after some time training, Tsuyoshi succeeds in casting his first fireball, although it is quite mediocre for his level. Fel explains that he needs combat experience so that he can improve quickly. However, Tsuyoshi refuses that suggestion because he has never used a sword. Fel, wanting Tsuyoshi to become stronger, takes him to fight a monster by force. And then, after a brief moment of emotional support, Fel decides to draw the attention of several goblins. They were extremely close to where he had started the confrontation. Tsuyoshi, terrified, ran from the army of goblins that were chasing him as fast as they could. After a few moments, Tsuyoshi decided to gather some courage and cast a few spells at the monsters, but unfortunately for him, he ended up tripping over a stone that was in his path. Tsuyoshi began to think that this was his end, but when everything seemed over, a magic barrier was activated around him. This barrier protected Tsuyoshi in a way that allowed him to fight without facing any risk to his life. And finally, after many fireballs, he ended up perfecting that attack, managing to launch a very large fireball. After that epic moment, Tsuyoshi could no longer endure the exhaustion, so he collapsed right in front of some goblins that were still alive. Fortunately for Tsuyoshi, shortly before he passed out, Fel went to help him, defeating the remaining goblins. Tsuyoshi woke up later that night, and once awake, Fel told him that he could feel Tsuyoshi's magical power had increased a little. Tsuyoshi then decided to check his statistics again, and he realized that not only had his stats leveled up, but he had also acquired a new magic skill, being an evolution of his fireball. So, to celebrate this major achievement, Fel showed him the body of a goblin king, one of the strongest goblins in the world. Fel told Tsuyoshi that this monster contained a magic stone that could be exchanged for money. After that, Tsuyoshi tried to stand up, but to his surprise, it was almost impossible. And when he finally managed to stand fully, he instantly felt dizzy and fell back to the ground. At that moment, he noticed that the only disadvantage of using a large amount of magic was the exhaustion that followed the process. For that reason, Tsuyoshi fed Fel on that occasion with Japanese sweets, also known as sweetbread. That food also ended up enchanting Fel. At the same time, Tsuyoshi became a little concerned for Fel's health, since that kind of food was neither nutritious nor healthy. However, Fel explained that thanks to a goddess's blessing, he could not succumb or fall to any disease. Moreover, he was immune to poisons or any state of pain. Tsuyoshi was surprised to hear that, because he felt that Fel, even without all those blessings, would still be extremely powerful. On the next day, Tsuyoshi and Fel finally arrived at what would be their next city. Once again, they were approached by an army of guards, and Tsuyoshi quickly applied, for the first time, his great strategy of saying that Fel was only a large wolf and not a Fenrir. This made all the guards and the people around him calm down. Everyone stopped being as frightened as before, but in the middle of a conversation, Tsuyoshi was interrupted by Fel, who apparently also had a blessing that allowed him to communicate mentally with Tsuyoshi. That ability was known as telepathy. Their communication was perfect and could be used at a long distance, all thanks to the familiar contract they shared. Fel and Tsuyoshi managed to enter the city, and Tsuyoshi realized that his next objective would be obtaining a map, so he would stop wandering through the city without direction. So Tsuyoshi decided to leave Fel behind so he could walk around the city without any problems while searching for a map. He ended up going to a library, where fortunately he found a basic basic magic guide. When he tried to buy the book, he discovered that it was extremely expensive, since paper in this world was considered a type of craftsmanship. Tsuyoshi also asked if there was a map of this world, but the person assisting him said there was not, and that a map of that level was nationally forbidden. This left Tsuyoshi shocked and disappointed. Then he moved on and continued his search for the map in the largest library in the city, and to his greater disappointment, he did not find any kind of map. Frustrated, he returned to Fell, who was very hungry, since he had spent most of the day without eating anything. After that, the two of them ate a special meal that Tsuyoshi prepared every afternoon, which also served for the night. On the next day, while Tsuyoshi was walking, they ended up going to a bar, hoping to gather some information. After talking with some adventurers who were sitting there, Tsuyoshi learned the names of the other kingdoms. Kingdoms with complicated names that he preferred not to mention. Those kingdoms were located on the eastern side of the continent, and they were regarded as great regions for adventurers, since they had many more dungeons around them. After that, he told the adventurers that he had been searching for a map. However, he had no luck finding one. Fortunately, one of the adventurers told Tsuyoshi that they had a map, and they were willing to hand it over to him for a low price, which would be 1 gold coin. Since it was a very rare and valuable object in that world, Tsuyoshi did not take long and made his decision. He bought their map. After that, the other people in the bar began laughing at Tsuyoshi, because those adventurers had basically tricked him. They managed to deceive him by selling the map to him, when in reality, Tsuyoshi could have obtained a map at the Adventurers Guild for only 1 silver coin. And so, Tsuyoshi finally realized that he could not trust almost anyone in that world. A few moments later, he and Fell headed toward a coastal country, and then we were shown a scene in a kingdom we already knew well. Here we could see the goddess of wind watching over Fell and Tsuyoshi, and we continued with their adventure. Both were preparing their camp near a lake, because this time they would eat fish for dinner, a decision made by Fell. Tsuyoshi, who was eating, decided to stand up for a moment, but as soon as he did so, he found a surprise at his feet. Something that appeared ended up turning into a slime, which, being such a low-level monster, was not even considered a threat to anyone. It was a creature that was essentially harmless. Tsuyoshi became enchanted with that creature, and he quickly grew attached to it afterwards. He discovered that the slime had been born only 3 days earlier, and soon after, the slime showed that it was extremely hungry. So Tsuyoshi decided to cook something for it. But before he could begin working, the little monster started devouring all the trash Tsuyoshi had left behind, and it almost managed to eat even the utensils he used daily for cooking. Luckily for him, the slime only managed to eat a single dish. And finally, after that small spectacle, the place was completely clean. Without thinking too much, Tsuyoshi praised the slime, which then behaved in a very friendly way. Suddenly, Tsuyoshi was informed that he had formed a familiar contract with that slime. He was surprised and decided to check the creature's status to confirm if that was true. After confirming everything, Tsuyoshi ended up giving the slime a new name, and from that moment on it would be known as Tsui. On the next morning, Tsuyoshi decided to train his magic again with Fell, this time attempting to master earth magic. Fell told Tsuyoshi that it would be a good idea to repeat what he had done with the goblins to quickly gain experience with this magic, but Tsuyoshi refused. After that, Tsuyoshi noticed that Tsui had grown a little in size, and upon checking its statistics, he discovered that Tsui had also increased significantly in level in only a few days. Currently, it was level 8. Tsuyoshi suspected that this happened because it had probably consumed items from another world, in a way that could also count as a buff for its statistic. Additionally, Tsui also worked as an instant garbage bin, which helped a lot in their daily routine. Later that day, Tsuyoshi decided to feed Tsui. After eating, he checked its statistics again. They were both surprised to discover that normal food only granted temporary buffs. Item, however, affected Tsui's level directly. After that, Tsuyoshi decided to hold a celebration in Tsui's honor. Not only because he was truly delighted with its help, but also because Tsui assisted him a lot with daily tasks, such as washing dishes. After the celebration, we moved on to the next day. Fell was waiting for Tsuyoshi to wake up, and when he woke, Fell told him that he had something very important to say. He had received a message the previous night. This message had been delivered by the goddess of wind, Ninri, who was the last goddess who had blessed Fell. Apparently, the goddess had heard Tsuyoshi's wishes, sensing that he truly wanted to receive a blessing. Therefore, the goddess was willing to offer a blessing to Tsuyoshi. However, she wished to receive an offering in return, which, in this case, would be sweets from another world. The agreement was that he would receive the blessing and give sweets to her once a week. Fell told Tsuyoshi that the blessing offered by the goddess was not complete like his, but it was still considered a minor blessing, one that would grant him immunity to pain status, with the exception of death and high-level curses. Furthermore, that blessing would allow him to use magic more easily. However, by accepting it, Tsuyoshi would have to give sweets to her every week, without ever forgetting even once. Tsuyoshi did not even think much about his decision, and he agreed almost instantly. Upon hearing his answer, Fel. He then tells him that all he needs now is an altar where he can receive his blessing. And luckily for Tsuyoshi, anything in that world works as an altar, even simple rocks. After hearing that, Tsuyoshi prepares the offering for the goddess and begins his prayer. After placing the food on the altar, the food is transported, causing Tsuyoshi's body to shine in a strange way. This is an indication that the blessing has been granted. Moments later, we see the goddess Ninri savoring those desserts. She had never tasted human food in her entire life, and after receiving the blessing, Tsuyoshi went back to experimenting with earth magic, which he had been practicing for some days. He quickly realized that his spell was finally working perfectly. Not only that, but he was much stronger and faster. But suddenly, Tsuyoshi was interrupted by the wind goddess Ninri. The goddess was now able to communicate telepathically with Tsuyoshi, but she only used this ability to ask for chocolates and more food. With no other option, Tsuyoshi sent them, leaving the goddess extremely happy and completely in love with the food he had. He then returned with Fel and Sui on their way to the next city. Later that day, Tsuyoshi and Fel came across what seemed to be a cave. Fel explained to Tsuyoshi that it was not what it seemed, and that the cave was actually a dungeon. These structures usually appeared in areas with large amounts of mana around them. A bit frightened, Tsuyoshi asked Fel why they had ended up in a place like that. After that, Fel answered that it was because he needed to gain combat experience. However, Tsuyoshi did not agree with Fel's methods. He believed his life could be in great danger in places like that. But Fel said that he believed in Tsuyoshi and reinforced the idea that Tsuyoshi could overcome that challenge and become much stronger. He also said that at the pace Tsuyoshi was going, he would take a very long time to become stronger. And after listening carefully to everything Fel said, Tsuyoshi decided to believe him, saying that he was right. And it happened that one of Fel's greatest concerns was that Tsuyoshi did not know how to defend himself. Fel feared that one day Tsuyoshi would be caught without a barrier raised, and upon hearing Fel comment about that, Tsuyoshi gathered all his motivation and finally decided to enter the dungeon. But before doing something that crazy, he decided that it was a good moment to eat food from the other world, since that type of food could increase the statistics of whoever consumed it, as it happened with Fel in the past. After eating something delicious and refined, Tsuyoshi finally decided to venture into the dungeon. Fel and Tsuyoshi also decided to accompany him. The first enemy Tsuyoshi faced seemed to be a slime, but unfortunately for the creature, Tsuyoshi eliminated it by throwing some type of acid at it. After that, Tsuyoshi was confronted by two slimes, which they managed to eliminate with extreme ease. The enemies disappeared suddenly, so it was explained to Tsuyoshi that any creature that died inside the dungeon was absorbed by it, whether monster or human. As they advanced further into the dungeon, the enemies also increased in level. On the second floor, they faced horned rabbits, and on the third floor, they faced some goblin. After some fights, Tsuyoshi was a bit confused, since they had been in the forest. Thanks to Fel, no enemy or monster had ever approached them. But in the dungeon, every living being attacked him, so he needed to consider any creature inside the dungeon an enemy, regardless of level. For Tsuyoshi's misfortune, his moment of reflection was interrupted by some werewolves. He was chased for a while, until he finally managed to use his earth magic, killing two enemies with a single attack. After some time, the group finally reached the end of the dungeon, and here it was Tsuyoshi's turn to fight against an army of werewolves. With little choice, Tsuyoshi was thrown by Fel toward the army of those monsters. And although Tsuyoshi was completely paralyzed by fear, if it were not for Fel's magic barrier, he would likely have been killed. After that event, he finally felt motivated to fight them, using only his earth magic. And after some time, Tsuyoshi managed to defeat the entire army of those monsters. And when he thought that there were no more enemies left, suddenly the king of those creatures appeared. He was a high-level werewolf. The king had been forced to leave his lair because Tsuyoshi had defeated all his underlings, and now the only thing left for Tsuyoshi to do was dodge his attacks. He had no remedies left and had nowhere to escape. After dodging those attacks, he decided to strike back, but unfortunately for Tsuyoshi, his earth magic did not seem to be very effective against that monster. To make the situation even worse, Tsuyoshi is informed that his barrier most likely would not withstand many attacks from that creature. And after that explanation, Tsuyoshi has no choice but to face this creature. He manages to refine his earth magic. However, that is still not enough to stop the monster. And all his magic does is make the monster even more irritated with Tsuyoshi. Even if Tsuyoshi tries to cast another attack with the same level of strength, he cannot do it because he has already reached his magic limit. The monster strikes the Fel's barrier mercilessly. The barrier slowly begins to give in due to the overwhelming force of that creature. But in that moment, Tsui decides to save Tsuyoshi, using a massive amount of steel, and that ends up being the blow that finally defeats the king. After that attack, Tsui begins to shine, but before Tsuyoshi can react, he collapses on the ground. falling asleep due to the exhaustion of using so much magic. Later, when Tsuyoshi finally wakes up, he realizes that he and Sui are outside the dungeon. Sui was extremely worried about him, but Tsuyoshi communicates telepathically with the slime and calms him down. By doing that, Tsuyoshi himself is surprised because he did not know he could communicate with the slime. But all of this has an explanation. It turns out that after Tsui defeated that king, he acquired the ability to speak. Tsuyoshi is very happy with the news. He decides to check Tsui's statistics again, and to his surprise, Tsui's levels increased considerably. After that, he also decides to check his own status levels. He managed to rise by 4 full levels. Besides that, he also managed to unlock the next level of his earth magic. Even so, Tsuyoshi is still weaker than Sui, who was born only 14 days ago. Fel checks on Tsuyoshi again. All of this because Tsuyoshi remained unconscious for a while, and for that reason, Fel had nothing to eat, and now all he wants is Tsuyoshi's food. Tsuyoshi gets a bit upset for being left behind, but since he survived, gained 4 levels, and even increased his magic level, he decides to ignore everything and prepare a huge feast for everyone. A few moments later, the group was eating, and when they finished, Tsuyoshi asked him about what Fel had talked about with Tsui. But before he could answer, he was interrupted by Tsui calling Fel uncle. Fel becomes extremely irritated with Tsui, making Tsui start crying while trying to hide behind Tsuyoshi. After that, Fel feels very bad, and to avoid turning into a heartless and emotionless creature, he decides to allow Tsui to call him Uncle Fel. After some time, a scene is shown where we are informed about everything Fel talked about with Tsui while Tsuyoshi was sleeping. This way we discover that Tsui is only calling Fel uncle because of his kindness. Fel took very good care of Tsuyoshi while he was asleep, and Tsui came to respect him as someone older than he is, so he called him uncle. The story continues, and our heroes group slowly approaches the next kingdom. Fel tells Tsuyoshi that they are about to pass through the forest controlled by Hortros and griffins. A griffin I can at least understand, but that other creature I have no idea what it is. Fel says that in the entire world, there are territories that are identical, or at least similar. Thus, humans build their homes surrounding the entire forest instead of venturing through it. This way, humans avoid bigger problems. Tsuyoshi then asks why they are going through those areas, but Fel says the reason is because he is not afraid of those creatures, since none of them represent a threat to him. The only creatures that could attack him would be the young and reckless ones, because no adult creature ever had the courage to challenge Fel. Tsuyoshi obviously does not accept this easily and keeps yelling at Fel, asking him to stop taking him to dangerous places. But before he could say anything else to Fel, the legendary Fenrir simply tells him that it is already too late, because they are already inside the territory of the creatures with the almost unpronounceable name. For a while, they walk without being disturbed, until suddenly a strange sound can be heard in the distance. Fel prepares himself to attack any kind of creature, until suddenly Tsuyoshi and Fel are attacked from behind by a creature known as an orc. Those monsters quickly surround them. Tsuyoshi is terrified and almost soils himself. He asks Fel if they are going to be alright, and Fel tells him that there is no reason to be afraid. He intimidates all the monsters with just his gaze, and although he manages to keep them away, it seems that one of them communicates with Fel. Fel is able to understand a little of what they say. So Fel tells Tsuyoshi that those creatures are young and reckless. After that, Tsuyoshi is instructed to take Sui with him, and without waiting even a single second, Tsuyoshi runs away with Sui and hides behind some bushes, leaving Fel alone to deal with the creatures. Fel tries to have a small dialogue with the youngsters, saying that they have no idea what it means to fight against him. That ends up not being very effective, because moments later one of the creatures launches an attack against Fel, and he defeats the opponent with a single effortless blow. This makes Tsuyoshi become shocked by Fel's tremendous skill, and the other creatures panic and retreat. After Fel's display of power, Tsuyoshi returns with Sui, and Fel now begins bragging about his great abilities. Sui becomes even more fascinated by the powers of his great uncle Fel, and asks him if one day he will also have similar abilities. Tsuyoshi says that maybe that is not possible, because Sui does not have claws, but unlike Fel, his acid ability is incredible just the same. After that, during the night, they all become anxious for dinner, and Tsuyoshi asks Fel how much longer they will need to cross the forest, and Fel answers that at this point they have already passed more than half of it. Tsuyoshi then does the math and realizes they have been in that forest for about 3 weeks, which means they still have 3 more weeks ahead. Thus, they realize that the meat they have will barely be able to sustain them, and for that reason they are forced to use their stored food supplies, and as usual, after a feast like that, the day finally comes to an end. Now, while Fel, Tsuyoshi, and Sui travel through the forest, suddenly Fel stops completely. Tsuyoshi becomes confused and asks Fel if something happened, and Fel says it is a bit strange for him to find those mushrooms. Those mushrooms are known as healing mushrooms. Their power is simple. Try to guess. They heal the body of the one who consumes them. Their healing can easily regenerate severe wounds or broken bones, and they are normally used in medicine, although they can also be eaten as they are. Tsuyoshi thinks it is great that they found them, and he decides to collect them. After that, Sui goes to Tsuyoshi to ask if he can eat some of those mushrooms. Tsuyoshi says yes, but without exaggerating, and right after that Tsuyoshi and Sui collect a large quantity of mushrooms, planning to use them in case of emergency. But suddenly, Sui begins to shine again, and that happens because Sui ate too many of those healing mushrooms. Worried about Sui, Tsuyoshi checks his statistics again, but to his surprise, Sui only acquired the ability to create healing potions. Fel explains to Tsuyoshi that in the past he had seen something similar with a slime, who after eating a metal stone transformed into a metallic slime. The slime received abilities involving metal. Tsuyoshi then deduces that the slime can evolve depending on what it eats, and Tsuyoshi sees this ability as a benefit. So he congratulates Sui for being a good boy and doing an excellent job. After that, Tsuyoshi becomes curious to know if this ability truly works. So he asks Sui if he can use it, and not long after, Sui manages to figure out how to use it, and the result is a healing gel. Surprised, Tsuyoshi decides to put all that gel into a flask that he had already stored, and after obtaining a large amount of this gel, Tsuyoshi, out of curiosity, checks the value of the item. This item ends up being more valuable than a healing potion. It also prevents imminent death, and it is of the highest quality. Tsuyoshi then asks Sui what that means, and Sui simply answers that he can heal many pains. Fel does not know why his healing is so special, but Sui manages to give a better explanation about his ability. When he says he can heal all pains, he is talking about treating light wounds all the way to the most serious injuries. Upon discovering that, Tsuyoshi does not waste the opportunity and stores the 3 different types of potions, and each one has a very different glow. Fel becomes surprised and tells Tsuyoshi that in all the years he has lived, he has never seen a magic like that before. Besides that, he had never seen a creature as intelligent as Sui. Fel considers Sui a unique creature, and Tsuyoshi becomes extremely happy to have both of them by his side. After a few days, they finally reach the territory of the griffin. They end up being intercepted by one of the griffins. The griffin, unlike the orcs, proves to be quite intelligent. He is able to speak the human language. So the griffin tells Fel that he has a request to make. Basically, the griffin wants Fel to fight one of them and prove that he is stronger than they are, and lead their species. The creature begs Fel to fight, and Fel ends up agreeing to this request. He tells the griffin that the fight will not be easy, and although Fel initially thought about fighting to the death, Tsuyoshi telepathically asks him not to kill the griffin. Moments later, the fight begins, and in it, we can see how the griffin uses every ability he has. Fel, in return, only plays with the griffin, avoiding giving any type of fatal strike. Fel manages to put on a great show, demonstrating once again the immense strength he has. The combat seems balanced, remaining that way only because Fel wishes it to. The battle suddenly ends with Fel's victory, and the griffin, poor thing, seems to be nearly dead. Tsuyoshi sees the griffin lying on the ground, about to die, so he runs to help him. He decides to use one of the healing potions he has, and thus the griffin's wounds regenerate instantly, saving the griffin's life. The griffin becomes very disappointed for not being able to face Fel properly. He feels defeated and unworthy of fighting against him. Tsuyoshi replies that this is not true. Then he shows a wound that the griffin managed to inflict on Fel, and with that he lifts the griffin's spirits. The griffin ends up becoming the leader of all the griffins, because in reality he never wanted Fel to become their leader. He actually only wanted to prove to everyone that he is very strong, and in a certain way, he ended up proving exactly that. He becomes extremely grateful to Fel for the incredible fight they were able to have. And after that the griffin decides to gift Tsuyoshi by changing one of his feathers, which works as a pass through the forest. That way, he prevents other griffins from attacking him. After doing this, the chief griffin finally says goodbye to them, and then, after many days walking, our heroes finally leave the forest, and then they come across a very beautiful valley. Tsuyoshi is extremely happy because they had already spent a month and a half traveling, only inside the forest. Tsuyoshi then looks at the map and realizes that he is very close to the kingdom of Leonhardt. Therefore, he will have to go to the guild to restock his supplies. Since he has been traveling for a long time, his meat is about to run out. Fel sees this as a very serious situation, so he quickens his pace to reach the kingdom as fast as possible. On the way, Tsuyoshi sees a caravan in the distance being attacked by bandits. Tsuyoshi, without hesitating, asks Fel to save them, and in return for this good action, Tsuyoshi promises to prepare a very luxurious dinner for him. Fel accepts, and without hesitation he runs at full speed toward the caravan, where, we can see a fight between bandits and the guards who are protecting someone important. Fel arrives, and with only one howl, he manages to make the bandits surrender. After that, they meet Lambert, the owner of the caravan. He thanks Tsuyoshi for the help, and right after that we meet Lars, the leader of the Phoenix Group. They are responsible for protecting this caravan. They say they are heading toward the city of Carlina, which is a city located northwest of the kingdom of Leonhardt. Tsuyoshi, upon hearing that, ends up asking if he can travel with them, along with Fel and Sui. The people, without thinking much, end up accepting Tsuyoshi's proposal. After all, traveling with them would be very safe. And so everyone continues their journey. And while they follow the caravan, Tsuyoshi manages to hear some rumors about him and Fel. It happens that people cannot tell for sure if Fel is just a big wolf or if he is a true Fenrir. Tsuyoshi becomes very surprised. He cannot understand how those old rumors from the beginning of his story spread so quickly. And then one of the guards mentions that there are teleportation cards in this world. Tsuyoshi becomes surprised, but that is the simple answer to his complicated question. He then begins to worry about what might happen if everyone truly discovers that Fel is a legendary Fenrir for real. He knows that this legendary beast is sought by everyone, and the last thing Tsuyoshi wants is to become involved in any kind of trouble. At nightfall, Tsuyoshi fulfills what he had promised, preparing a luxurious dinner for Fel. And to avoid attracting the attention of the caravan members, Tsuyoshi decides that it is a good idea to move away from the camp. This way, he can prepare the banquet without anyone knowing. After a while, when the food is finally ready, it does not take long for Fel and Sui to start devouring it. Unfortunately for Tsuyoshi, the smell of the food reached the noses of the caravan members, and that made them discover Tsuyoshi. Unfortunately, he had no choice but to feed these people as well. This scene reminds me of when I used to go to school without taking any food at all, and all the children were forced to share their snacks with me. In the end, I ate more than everyone else, which is probably why I was a very overweight child. After all, I did bring food, but I ate it long before the actual time to eat. I was embarrassed to tell everyone that, so I simply said that I did not bring anything. And in the end, that ended up becoming my infinite food farm, better than Minecraft's. Unfortunately, for Tsuyoshi, this caused his last meat supplies to run out. The next morning, Tsuyoshi and his group finally arrived in the city of Carolina, together with the caravan members. The caravan leader told Tsuyoshi that this city is the 5th largest city in the kingdom of Leonhardt. It is his hometown, and not only that, but his family owns a shop that sells footwear and other items. After that, Tsuyoshi says goodbye to Lambert, because he intends to accompany the adventurers to the guild, so that ends up being their farewell. At the guild, Tsuyoshi finds out that his adventurer license has been revoked. This is due to the fact that he spent more than a month without completing a single mission. Tsuyoshi remembers that the real reason he did not accept a single mission was because they were crossing the Griffin Forest. Upon hearing that, the receptionist explains to him that most rank G adventurers must quickly complete a minimum number of missions, rising to rank F very fast. Upon reaching rank F, adventurers have around 3 months to complete a mission, which is much better than only 1 month at rank G. Besides that, rank F missions give more experience and also pay more money. However, Tsuyoshi is not worried about any of that. Tsuyoshi ends up having to register again at the Adventurer Guild, paying the required fee once more. This time, Tsuyoshi tells the receptionist that he has obtained more familiars since the last time he registered, and then he takes Sui out of his bag. When the other adventurers see Tsuyoshi carrying a slime, they begin to laugh and make fun of him, since a slime is considered a very weak creature, but Tsuyoshi does not care about that. And after finishing his registration at the guild, he decides to go sell the monsters he hunted during his journey. Shortly after, Tsuyoshi returns bringing all of his hunted game. This leaves the adventurer group that was with him completely impressed, and soon after, the butcher who was assisting Tsuyoshi thanks him for the high-quality meat and the other items he brought. However, he says that the meat from his hunt is something a commoner like him normally could not afford to eat. When they hear that, the adventurers who were with Tsuyoshi become even more curious and ask him what kind of meat he had eaten the previous day. Tsuyoshi calmly answers, saying that he ate a bit of everything, but that most of the food was made with the same monsters he sold. After hearing that, the adventurers apologize to Tsuyoshi and even bow their heads as a sign of respect. They did that because Tsuyoshi served them high-quality ingredients, which people usually prefer selling to nobles instead of eating since they are so expensive. Those adventurers believed they would never taste that kind of food, which is why they are thanking him. Tsuyoshi becomes a little awkward with all the gratitude. He asks them not to apologize because they took care of him during the entire trip. Upon hearing that, the adventurers thank him, saying that they are well known in the city, and that if he ever needs anything, he just has to look for them. And thus, they finally say goodbye. After that, Tsuyoshi goes to rest in an inn that had been recommended to him. His goal is to accept some missions the next day and complete them, so he can rise to rank F and not worry about the guild for a long time. But before Tsuyoshi can even sleep, he is interrupted by the wind goddess, who reminds him that he owes her an offering. Thus, with no real choice, he ends up sending her many desserts and sweets. The next day, he goes to the guild to accept some missions, and upon reading the different missions, Tsuyoshi notices that each one of them has a specific number of points. To reach rank F, he needs a total of 100 points. Fell becomes very insistent with Tsuyoshi, telling him that he should accept the mission to eliminate goblins, since it gives a total of 3 points, but Tsuyoshi refuses, because he was deeply traumatized after fighting Goblin. Then Fell tells him that the final decision is in Sui's hands, because they are a group, and each one has the right to a vote, and to Tsuyoshi's misfortune, Sui ends up deciding that they will go fight the goblins. Sometime later, we see them in the forest searching for goblins. Their mission is very simple, since they only need to kill 5 of them. Fell manages to find a few, but they do not last long, because Sui is able to kill all of them with a single strike. However, in order for the mission to be completed, they must collect the goblins' ears as proof, so Sui needs to cut the ears off each goblin, which leaves Tsuyoshi even more traumatized. Right after that, more goblins are drawn by Tsuyoshi's voice. Thus, Sui ends up defeating more goblins than he can even count. Fell notices that there is a goblin colony very close, and although Tsuyoshi initially refuses, he ends up being overwhelmed by Sui's cuteness, since Sui is having a great time with the entire hunt. Finally, after some time, the mission is completed. However, they overdo it a little, hunting far too many goblins, which in the end, leaves Tsuyoshi even more traumatized. After that, only one problem remains. They need to handle the large number of remaining corpses, because if they do not deal with the bodies, they might end up attracting higher level creatures or even cause a dungeon to form, and that would be a serious problem. Tsuyoshi cannot come up with any idea, since goblins are not even edible, so Fell says they should be dissolved by Sui. Tsuyoshi, somewhat confused, asks if that is possible, and Sui answers yes, demonstrating the new ability called Great Slime that Sui has acquired. All of this happened thanks to Sui having evolved once again. Tsuyoshi, surprised, realizes that Sui also gained the ability to become smaller. Sui then decides to test the new ability, multiplying into multiple smaller versions of itself, which shocks Tsuyoshi even more. With that, Sui is able to dissolve the huge mountain of goblins that had been left behind. Tsuyoshi once again remembers that Sui is a unique creature, and that worries him a little, because he is afraid Sui might become slightly out of control with the amount of abilities he acquires. To make everything worse, Tsuyoshi cannot stop Sui's evolution, so there is nothing that can be done. Later that day, while the group is resting and eating, Tsuyoshi realizes that his goal of reaching rank F may already have been completed, thanks to the large number of goblins he had killed. However, Tsuyoshi does not believe that this is true, since he was planning to spend a few months leveling up and resting in the city. Sometime later, when Tsuyoshi arrived to deliver all the goblins he had hunted, he ended up leaving everyone shocked with what he had done. The girls who were assisting Tsuyoshi were very surprised. They did not know what to do with such a huge number of goblins, and Tsuyoshi did not expect this to end up causing a problem for him. However, within a few seconds, a guild girl approached him and told him that the guild master wished to see him and his familiars. With no real choice, Tsuyoshi, Fell, and Sui go to meet the guild master, and this is where we meet Wilhelm, the guild master. He explains to Tsuyoshi that the reason he called him was the large number of goblins he had hunted. Tsuyoshi answers quickly, saying that all of this happened because they found a goblin settlement. After hearing that, Master Wilhelm decides that it is a good idea to reward them for clearing the settlement, since that cursed place had been causing many problems for a long time. After that, the master praises them and recognizes Fell's great strength. He had already suspected that Fell was not merely an ordinary wolf, but a legendary Fenrir. Aware of that, Master Wilhelm tells Tsuyoshi that he also summoned him because he has a very urgent message from the royal palace. It turns out that the message said the king was granting them the right to live freely within the kingdom, and that this had already been communicated to all nobles. However, the only condition was that they must cooperate in emergency situations. After that, Tsuyoshi is surprised because he knows nothing about the royal family, nor about the noble. The guild master says that they are very difficult people to deal with, but since he is accompanied by a legendary beast like Fell, they will probably treat him very well. Because of that, Tsuyoshi feels a bit more at ease, imagining that this conversation will probably allow him a little more freedom. Right after that, the master returns to the main topic. He says that his goal now is to raise Tsuyoshi's rank, and Tsuyoshi says that he only wants to reach rank F so that his adventurer license lasts longer. Upon hearing that, the master suggests using his authority as guild master to promote Tsuyoshi directly to rank C. This way, he could avoid questions about why a rank G adventurer had a Fenrir as his familiar, but in exchange for that, the guild master intended to ask him for a few favors. Tsuyoshi noticed the expression on the master's face and became worried, so he decided to escape the subject. He said that his goal was not to become a renowned adventurer, but the master insisted, saying that destroying an entire goblin camp was an A or S level mission, and he wanted Tsuyoshi to handle similar missions. Upon hearing that, Tsuyoshi asked Fel if he believed such missions were possible for their group. Fel replied that nothing was impossible for him, and after that, they accepted the high-level missions that had been offered to them. The master ended the conversation by warning that he would tell the other adventurers to stay out of their way, mainly so they would not end up slowing them down. After that, Tsuyoshi mentioned that he also wanted to sell a few things. Right after, he showed the mountain of creatures he had in storage. The master was shocked by what he saw. He asked the butcher not to say anything about what he had witnessed, and only then finally said goodbye. Moments later, the butcher explained that most of the monsters there were rank S. A clear example was the Orc King or the Blue Ogre King, mainly because of how extremely difficult they were to defeat. Even so, none of this surprised Tsuyoshi, since Fel defeated them as if they were flies. As usual, the butcher told him he would have to return the next day to pick up all the meat. The master also said that his new guild rank license would be ready the next day. So Tsuyoshi continued with his day, and after some time, they stopped for dinner. The next morning, they headed to the guild. There, the new adventurer license was handed to Tsuyoshi. The license had a silver metallic texture, and the master explained that rank S adventurers could take missions every 6 months, so he should not lose his license so easily. In the end, he handed over the reward from the previous day. Tsuyoshi was shocked by the number of sacks filled with gold, easily more than 400 gold coins, a much larger amount than last time. To Tsuyoshi's surprise, that was only the first delivery. He quickly mentioned that his second delivery totaled 1,415 gold coins, and finally the reward for hunting and destroying the goblin settlement, which earned him nearly 2,000 gold coins. Tsuyoshi was extremely shocked upon hearing those numbers. He still had money left over from what he had earned last time, so now he was basically rich. However, that made him a little worried about his safety. He did not want anyone to discover how much money he had, otherwise some bandits might decide to rob him. The guild master had another mission for Tsuyoshi. He asked him to hunt a metallic lizard and also a herd of other bizarre creatures whose names he could not even pronounce. The master suggested that they hunt the lizard first, since it was only 2 days away by carriage, while the other creatures, besides being in a different direction, were also extremely violent by nature, and because of their size, were even more dangerous. To convince Fel, he said that with that meat, they could prepare something incredibly tasty, and after that, the group began to prepare for the job. But before leaving, Tsuyoshi said that he wanted to visit an old friend first, who in this case was Lambert. Tsuyoshi remembered that his family owned a footwear shop that sold many unique items. When he arrived, Lambert asked the reason for his visit, and Tsuyoshi replied that he was looking for a new bag since the one he was carrying was very damaged. Lambert said that he had several bags Tsuyoshi could choose from. Tsuyoshi then asked if he could test them with Sui. He said the bag was for a relative of his, and so Sui ended up choosing the cheapest one. After that, Tsuyoshi continued exploring the entire shop. He ended up buying a very beautiful accessory bag. But before Lambert finished charging him, Tsuyoshi remembered that he also sold shoes. He then realized that in this world he had always been using the same old and cheap shoes, and even though he could buy a new pair from his online shop, he decided to buy one from Lambert so he would not stand out so much with an item from his world. Something I would not do. Nothing compares to a comfortable pair of sneakers that are 3 sizes larger than my foot. The kind that are so loose that when you kick a soccer ball, the shoe goes flying away. Those are perfect. He also bought a bag, a wallet, and a belt with a sheath for his knife. Lambert said the total was 11 gold coins. But for Tsuyoshi everything would be free, since Lambert was deeply grateful that he had saved his life. This was also his way of repaying him for that extremely high-quality meat. Tsuyoshi accepted the gifts and thanked him, and on the following day the group finally reached the mountain where the metallic lizard was located. After confirming that this was indeed the place, Fel went deeper into the mountain to find it, and thanks to his sense of smell, it was very easy to track it down. They eventually managed to find the cave where the creature was, and once inside the cave, it did not take long to encounter the first enemy. At first, they believed this was a normal lizard, but after examining it, they realized it was actually a mithril lizard. Tsuyoshi became very confused because in that place they were supposed to find the metallic lizard. Fel analyzed and sniffed the entire area and noticed that everything around them was made of mithril ore, so he assumed that the lizard must have evolved, to everyone's misfortune. Fel also mentioned that mithril was a very light and strong mineral that conducted magical power extremely well, being used in every anime as the strongest metal. In other words, any magic released could be absorbed or dissipated easily. For that reason, magic would have only half of its usual effectiveness, and because the creature was made of that type of metal, having a magical battle against it would not be advantageous. That was why even Fel might experience a bit of difficulty. However, that was only logical reasoning. In reality, Fel did not even think much about it. He simply fired a lightning bolt, which ended up defeating the lizard with a single strike. The creature was then left aside, and the group began exploring the cave. After a few minutes wandering through the cave, Tsuyoshi finally realized that he could forge a weapon with that ore. He could even make armor, because that metal must have been extremely rare. He thought about collecting some of the metal from the cave, but before he could gather more, he was interrupted by Fel, who had heard Tsuyoshi's comments. Fel said that he had no need for any of that, because nothing came close to the defensive power of his magical barrier. Therefore, he did not need any armor. After that, Fel said that he wanted to finish the next mission, leaving Tsuyoshi and Sui surprised by his enthusiasm. Fel mentioned that he wanted to complete these missions as quickly as possible. After all, the other creature they were going to hunt had extremely delicious meat. After saying that, he grabbed Tsuyoshi and carried him away against his will. It did not take long for them to find the herd of those bulls. Fel told Tsuyoshi that it would not take long, and it did not take more than 2 seconds for him to eliminate the entire herd. Later that same day, the group delivered everything and claimed the reward for the 2 missions. Once at the guild, they left both the master and the butcher astonished. After all, the lizard Tsuyoshi had brought back was an incredibly rare creature, and the last time one had been seen was more than 400 years ago. The master also mentioned that when a lizard like that existed, it meant that a mountain made of that ore had also been formed. He said that in that world, there were only 3 mountains where such ore could be mined, and that it was the rarest material among all rare materials that existed in that world. The master also informed them that the hide of that lizard was so rare that it would be given directly to the king as a gift. Of course, this gift would not be free, and the reward Tsuyoshi would receive was 5,000 gold coins. Upon hearing that, Tsuyoshi went into a state of shock. Now he could definitely consider himself a wealthy person, and when the master was about to tell him that he was waiting for that gold hunt mission to be completed, Tsuyoshi showed him that this mission had already been completed as well. This left both the master and the butcher even more shocked, and when the day was about to end, Tsuyoshi said he would not waste the opportunity to cook that high-quality meat, so he would prepare an excellent feast for all of them. Upon hearing that, Fel became very happy, and to his surprise the meat ended up being extremely delicious, even for Tsuyoshi himself, who had already tasted the delicacies of our world. Thus, they ended the day with a great banquet, and at the end of the night, when Tsuyoshi was making his weekly offering, something that would make his goddess extremely pleased, he was interrupted by a strange voice. Those voices seemed to have been spying on Ninrir for several days, and they seemed to come from people who were interested in the sweets and in the things she received. Those voices revealed 3 more goddesses, who also offered him their blessings so that he would also offer his sweets as offerings to them. And although Tsuyoshi told them that he had already received a minor blessing from the wind goddess, they comment that it was only a small blessing. So the earth goddess Kishar offers him an affinity blessing that will improve his earth magic, and in turn he will also receive one from the fire goddess, Agniu, who will finish strengthening his fire magic. After hearing that, he thinks about refusing, since he doesn't know if it's normal for a human to have so many blessings. And besides that, the whole offering matter already bothers him a lot. The goddesses, without thinking too much about it, decide to give their blessings by force, so now he will also have to send offerings to them. However, he ends up encountering the water goddess. Since Tsuyoshi has no water affinity, he cannot receive her blessing. To me, that is something that makes no sense at all. However, to the water goddess, it is extremely sad, and she ends up crying. After all, she will be the only one among the goddesses who will not receive any sweets. Tsuyoshi, trying to solve the situation and maybe receive some benefit from it, asks if the water goddess can bless Tsui, so that Tsuyoshi will be able to take advantage of that blessing. And then Tsui ends up receiving the water goddess's blessing. However, the goddess did not give just any blessing, but a complete blessing, far more powerful than any blessing Tsuyoshi has received, because the water goddess only offers a blessing once every century, while her companions grant blessings every decade or even more frequently. In this way, the water goddess managed to make sure everyone received equal offerings. The next morning, Tsuyoshi decides to test his newly improved abilities, and he shows an absurd difference compared to earlier moments. Tsui also decides to experiment a little with his new blessing, and at that moment he demonstrates that his power is at an incredibly high and monstrous level. The morning after that, the group wakes up very happy thanks to the previous day's meal. Fel then asks what the goal of the day will be, and Tsuyoshi answers that he already moved up in ranking, so he no longer needs to go out hunting. But Fel replies that he does not care, and that for him every day is a hunting day. With not much choice, the group heads to Lambert's shoe shop, but before that they go to the butcher to pick up meat. The butcher says that their entire order was already ready, including the payment, so he hands Tsuyoshi more bags full of gold. However, more money was still necessary to settle the debt of the mithril lizard. For that reason, the guild master went to talk to the lord of the city about it. Even so, Tsuyoshi answers that he is not in a hurry and prefers to personally handle removing the skin of the black serpent. Tsuyoshi says that this time he wants to sell everything except the meat and the skin. The butcher immediately starts working. Later at lunchtime, Tsuyoshi prepares a surprise for Fel and Sui, which was only possible thanks to all the money they collected. That way he managed to buy a meat grinder, and with that he prepared a new dish called bull hamburger steak, made with a disgusting mixture of bull steak with the blood and meat of the orc general. The dish obviously turned out delicious, at least that is what they said. I do not believe it. After the meal, Tsuyoshi decides he wants to buy personal hygiene products such as soap and shampoo. I strongly recommend the monkey soap. And thanks to the fact that in this world everyone has those things, no one will be even slightly suspicious. Tsuyoshi also thinks about maybe selling his products and possibly earning some extra money as a merchant. Yes, at this point in the story capitalism has already gone to his head, and he wants to become the Elon Musk of this world. Later that day, the group goes to deliver the black serpent skin to Lambert, who is shocked, since he could not believe it was a real skin right in front of his eyes. And just reminding you all, this is an extremely difficult skin to obtain in this world, even more so if it is intact. Tsuyoshi has a perfect skin right there. After that, Lambert asks him if he would sell it to him for 50 gold coins, and he ends up accepting. And during that negotiation, Tsuyoshi tells Lambert that he is also a member of the Merchants Guild, which leaves Lambert very confused because it is very rare to find someone who registered in both guilds. After saying that, Tsuyoshi removes his hygiene items from his pack and asks Lambert if he thinks those items would sell well. Lambert checks the products he brought to tell him whether they are good or not. He smells the soap and realizes that the scent is very good. After that, Tsuyoshi begins to explain more about his products, saying that he defeated a monster, and from that monster a portal to another world was open, and from that portal those items ended up being thrown out. He has an item called conditioner, an item called shampoo, and even an item called facial mask. Lambert stays silent for a few seconds, and then he thanks God for meeting someone so important, because thanks to Tsuyoshi he will be able to earn a lot of money. Lambert explains that his wedding anniversary is coming, and that he truly wanted to give her a special present, and those cleaning items that Tsuyoshi has are perfect, since his wife, unlike the men in this world, loves taking baths. Tsuyoshi is extremely shocked when he discovers that bathtubs exist in this world. During all this time he had not taken even a single bath, so he asks Lambert if he can see his bathtub. Lambert agrees without any problem, and shows him what his bathtub is like, which leaves Tsuyoshi very impressed. He explains that bathtubs are expensive, and making them simply work can cost gold coins, but in this world a merchant who owns a bathtub is considered a successful man. After saying that, Lambert asks if Tsuyoshi is interested in one, because if he is, he can introduce him to a store that sells one. Tsuyoshi ends up accepting without any complaint, and later Tsuyoshi decides to leave one product of each type for Lambert so he can test them and check their quality. The next day they go again to Lambert's shoe shop, now visited by Tsuyoshi to see how he was after the bath. As soon as he opens the door, Tsuyoshi is surprised by Lambert's wife, who appears fascinated by his presence. Lambert introduces the two formally, and in that moment we discover that his wife's name is Mary. But before Tsuyoshi can say anything, he is interrupted by Mary, who is enchanted by the items he brought. It turns out that the night before, her husband released a very sweet scent after the bath. Besides that, his hair had an incredible shine, which made his wife jealous, and because of that she wanted to try the products immediately. So she used them, and was able to see the result. Her skin became extremely soft. Her hair was cleaner with a lighter sensation, and even Lambert was amazed by those items because they enhanced his wife's beauty even more. So Lambert wanted to know if he could buy an entire batch for Mary. Not only that, but he also wanted some of those items to sell in the shop. Previously, Tsuyoshi had already considered that possibility, but ended up not asking that favor because he was not sure if the products would sell well. But now Mary is stating with complete certainty that the product is extremely good and that everything will be sold quickly. She says she knows many people, and some of them are nobles, and she is sure those products will become famous soon. After that, she runs toward Tsuyoshi and says that if he is going to sell those products, he must do so in their shop. So he answers that he has no problem with that, and that he will sell the items in their store, especially because he does not even have his own shop. Later, Tsuyoshi returns with Fel and Sui and tells them everything that happened. He also leaves a pile of merchandise for Lambert and Mary, so they will have products to sell for a long time. After that, Tsuyoshi decides to go to the Adventurers Guild, since he discovered that the guild master had finally returned after his meeting with the lord of those lands. When he enters the guild master's room, he ends up letting out a very loud shout, because what was in front of him was what was still missing from his reward, a total of 5,800 gold coins, and now, with all that money, Tsuyoshi plans to finally buy the bathtub of his dreams. But suddenly, they are interrupted by a guild girl who brings more news. It turns out that the city was invaded by a swarm of wyvern. Everyone runs out to see the situation, and while they are running, the girl explains that a swarm of those monsters attacked a group while they were hunting on the plains west of the city. Wilhelm comments that he was already informed that some people were left behind with some monsters, and that those monsters apparently were searching for the blood bulls that Tsuyoshi had killed. When they reach the lower floor, we can see that many people were already injured, with wounds so serious they could even lead to death. Everyone is very nervous because the healing potions are running out, and soon it is likely that many people will die. Suddenly, they are interrupted by Tsuyoshi, who says that he has high-quality potions. When they are applied to the injured, we can see that those potions heal them completely, leaving everyone surprised and shocked, because the potions not only heal them, but they also detoxified them, saving all the wounded that way. After that, the guild master tells all the adventurers that their mission is to hunt down every wyvern, and because of that, all adventurers of rank C or higher must participate without exception. Unfortunately, Tsuyoshi is a rank C adventurer, and if no one faces the swarm of those monsters, it probably will not take long before they attack that city. The adventurers present begin to motivate themselves, and in the middle of all the shouting and excitement, they are interrupted by Fel, who can hear everything and says that he will be able to take care of all those wyvern. For Fel, that hunt would be nothing but a simple exercise. And although Tsuyoshi refused that idea at first, in the end he ends up agreeing. Fel also asks if all the monsters he hunts belong to him, and the guild master answers that they do, and that they will also be rewarded with money. After hearing that, they leave immediately. The group does not take long to find the monsters, and then Fel and Sui decide to go into battle, where without much trouble they quickly annihilate every creature. Meanwhile, Tsuyoshi hides behind a rock, but to his bad luck, he is also attacked by some of those monsters. However, thanks to Fel's barrier, he does not receive any damage, before being saved by Sui and Fel in a combined attack, where Fel finishes the battle by cutting the enemy's head off, which leaves Tsuyoshi slightly traumatized. After that, the group decides to prepare a delicious meal to celebrate their victory, saving the Adventurers Guild and the city. After the meal, they return to the Adventurers Guild and report that they defeated all the wyverns. The guild says that they will disassemble them for free, because they do not have enough funds to pay Tsuyoshi, and because of that, they will also only buy half of the materials. Tsuyoshi wakes up and returns to the inn exhausted, and while he is sitting on the bed, the goddesses approach him to ask for more offerings. The goddess Lin, he communicates with him privately and secretly, and she emphasizes that the amount of sweets he must give her needs to be greater. The earth goddess Akishar says that he sold many interesting items recently, and she would like some of those items to be given to her as an offering. Those items consist of bags, soaps, and she also loves sweets, but her dry hair lately has been bothering her even more. The water goddess says that his meals seem delicious and that she would like to taste them. She asks that this conversation be kept a secret. Tsuyoshi wonders why all of them want to keep their conversations secret, since if he sends the offerings they will immediately find out the requests that were made to him. The goddess Akishar says that Agni gets irritated when she learns that all the other goddesses were asking for things in secret, so she says she will ask for something she personally wants. She asks Tsuyoshi to send her drinks. The next day, Tsuyoshi goes to the store that sells bathtubs, and when he arrives, he is fascinated by the bathtubs available. The seller shows him several of many types, but he ends up choosing a green one. The seller asks if he will use any type of financing, but Tsuyoshi says he will pay for it in full and take it immediately in his magical item bag. The seller is impressed by everything, and after buying the bathtub, Tsuyoshi and Fel decide to leave the city to get some fresh air and enjoy his new acquisition, the bathtub. While Tsuyoshi enjoys the bath, Fel says he will go out to hunt. Tsuyoshi and Sui enjoy the moment, and Tsuyoshi ends the day preparing a delicious feast with the parts of the Reva. Fel returns from his hunt and says that this time he went a little farther than usual, and he ended up finding an earth dragon. Tsuyoshi asks what they will do with a dragon, and Fel says it is very simple, they will eat it, because an earth dragon is delicious. Tsuyoshi becomes worried about the fact that they cannot store more monsters in his inventory, so they head to the Adventurers Guild to ask if the guild can disassemble that dragon for him. When they arrive, the guild master and the butcher say that disassembling a dragon is impossible, because they heard that nothing from a dragon is discarded. The scales, the claws, and all its entrails are extremely valuable ingredients, and they cannot handle such a rare and precious monster. Fell says he does not care about the rest of the dragon as long as he can eat its meat, and Tsuyoshi tells him that is not exactly how things work. Then the guild master comments that he knows someone who can disassemble the dragon for them. They become happy when they hear that, and the master says that this place is a bit far, and that this person is the guild master of Dolan, who is a great expert on dragon. Fell says they will have to travel by sea, because he wants to eat sea monsters, like kragans and aquatic serpent. According to him, with Tsuyoshi's cooking skills, those creatures would become even more delicious, and that would be like killing two birds with one stone. The guild master and the butcher start laughing, saying that this is great. After all, venturing out is exactly what adventurers do. So after that conversation, Tsuyoshi, Fell, and Sui say goodbye to everyone in the city and leave toward their next adventure. Leave a like and comment anything to prove that you did not enjoy it and that you watched this video until the end. Alright, a big kiss to everyone, goodbye, and see you in the next video. I am out.